All right, I am live here at Netroots Nation, the Matthew Filipowicz Show. I'm talking to Amanda Levitt. You can find her at fatbodypolitics.com, also on Twitter at fatbodypolitics. Amanda, thanks so much for talking with me today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so Amanda, first off, tell me all about your site. What's the main gist of the site? What made you start the site? What do you basically cover over at fatbodypolitics.com?
So, I started the website a really long time ago. It's about 8 years old. It's kind of like my place where I rant sometimes. But I started talking about body image and eating disorders, and then really started branching more recently into talking about food justice, into poverty, and how when we talk about obesity, that we really ignore the fact that what we're really talking about are poor people, people of color, and how, and really ignoring how we don't have access to fresh foods, don't have access to places to move our bodies, and that, if we were really interested in having a society that's healthier, we would be creating access to health behaviors, not shaming people for living in specific body types.
Yeah. Well, what are some of the, you mentioned them. Go into a little more detail about some of the, obviously people hear things like food deserts and all that kind of stuff, but talk a little bit about some of the things that are missing if you really are trying to if you really are saying you care about just the health of people.
Yeah, so obviously people really like to talk about like GMOs, and we like to talk about processed foods and all of those issues, but we really ignore that when you demonize processed foods, you're ignoring that the populations of people that are most likely to eat them are also poor and lack access to fresh fruits and vegetables, and really lack access to what we would consider to be like healthy foods. And I think that is something for me that has been really important, is really kind of getting people to think more critically about like the words they use. Like I know a lot of people that are really into like healthy eating like to talk about eating clean, but what does that mean when you say that you eat clean and then there's people that can't afford to eat those foods? Are you saying that they like are dirty? And so it's kind of this like, I find it really fascinating, but it's also me trying to get people to like deconstruct that stuff.
Yeah. Well, one thing, I just met you here at the conference here. When I met you, one of the things we talked about was this bill that's being proposed, and it's horrible. It is. It's horrible on every conceivable level. So tell us, what is the bill, what's in the bill, and who's connected to the bill?
Yeah, so recently Tommy Thompson, who's the former governor of Wisconsin and obviously used to be the United States Chair of Health and Human Services, he is going around proposing a bill called the Treat and Reduce Obesity Act, which, for most people, because we think that obviously we believe that obesity is a health problem, we think that this would be something that's really good, but in reality what he's doing is wanting to get funding for weight loss surgery and diet pills to be covered by Medicaid. And so, aside from the fact that clearly poor people are consistently dealing with the fact that welfare is being cut and need access to again, fresh fruits and vegetables and these health behaviors, that just giving them, weight loss surgery and giving them diet pills on top of the fact that those things don't actually work and have horrible complications. Lap-Band has an 89% complication rate that goes from mild things like cramping or vomiting to dying. That's the range.
Dying is pretty extreme.
It's a very severe complication.
Right.
And
possible side effects are death.
Yes. Well, and so obviously, but it's 30% of people who have Lap-Band within the first 3 years have severe complications. Yeah. And so it's a lot of people. And a vast majority of people actually gain back weight because most research shows that people can't lose weight long term. Diet pills have a 10% success rate, but success is losing 10% of your body weight. So as a fat person, you're still going to be fat at the end, even if you're successful. But yeah, so and aside from that, the people that are connected to this bill that are funding to have Tommy Thompson go around and talk about it, it's an organization called the Obesity Alliance Coalition, and the director of it is the former policy director of GlaxoSmithKline. The largest funder of this organization is Allergan, who created Lap-Band. And if you actually look at the history of how the obesity epidemic started in 1998, when they changed the obesity, the BMI numbers, overnight millions of Americans all of a sudden became overweight without changing their body size. And the reason why was because there was this huge push from companies like Allergan and other pharmaceutical companies to really medicalize and create this, quote unquote epidemic.
So, again, just to reiterate here, companies that created these diet pills and that created this surgery have Tommy Thompson now lobbying for for their specific diet pills and for this surgery to be covered by Medicare and Medicaid. And again, these are when it comes to someone like Tommy Thompson, we're talking about this person whose politics also very much is all about cutting Medicare and Medicaid and saying how horrible it is, and here at the same time they're talking about they want to, on one hand they're trying to cut it and get rid of it altogether so they can make because they want people to die, essentially is what it is. But then at the same hand they're trying to, well, if it's going to exist, we might as well make a buck off it, essentially.
Yeah, and we also know that if you look at research, we know that fat people are more likely to be poor, they're more likely to live in poverty, so that's like the biggest portion of the population that one is, obviously the Affordable Care Act changed it a little bit, but there's still, all states haven't expanded their Medicaid. So, obviously everyone doesn't have access to it, but the people that do can get funding for this. And these are the same organizations that last summer when the American Medical Association declared obesity a disease, they too lobbied to get them to do that because they had the AMA had put a panel together who, at the end, after researching it, said that no, obesity isn't a disease because it doesn't fit and qualify as a disease. But then because they were pressured to by these companies, they declared it a disease. So it's like, I think that for me, it's consistently frustrating and really interesting as a researcher that so many people think that, like, health isn't political. It's just, and that's where I see this, like, really weird thing that everyone's like, but obesity is a problem, but you don't see that these, like, huge pharmaceutical companies are making so much money off of it.
Yeah.